On Reality's Edge with Doc and Buddy, we are not afraid to explore the fringes of known science, to step boldly into the darkness, and even examine the worlds of extraterrestrial civilizations. They could even be right here, near us.
This Valentine's Day, on Reality's Edge with Doc and Buddy, we are going to have a little surprise for you. You'll see.
This episode of Reality's Edge with Doc and Buddy is it's beautiful. It's I love it. Dr. Simeon Hine is I love him. And Buddy, he's so crazy. I love it. I love it. It's all non-local too. I love non-local.
Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Reality's Edge with Doc and Buddy. How's everyone doing tonight? Let's see. We are, let me see if I can bring Buddy in here. Buddy, where did he go?
I'm in the future.
You're in the future. I'm just seeing a blue screen. Let's try this again.
Well, maybe you can hear me because light, the speed of light, it's hard in the future and, the visuals, but the speed of sound can make it from the future.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
You got me?
Hey guys, so we've got Sunsaver, we've got Kronos, Michael. Hey guys, Patrick. How you doing?
Beautiful.
Kronos, we got a nice crowd here. And Buddy, you are wearing some interesting glasses there.
Yeah, I got this amazing helmet today. There's an incredibly kind gentleman.
Yes.
The things that, of course, you guys know I love to play with.
Yes.
I'm going to take this off for now because this one actually looks like it's some sort of technology, but in fact, it's a massage helmet.
It's a massage helmet.
It massages around your eyes. It has these little bags that fill in the back. It rubs your temples. It has a thing that spins on the top. You can see stuff, sound, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Neat. Well, Buddy, so we are, for some reason, I am not getting your image. I can see you, but it doesn't seem to be feeding onto the screen. But people can hear you, and I'm not sure. I gotta want to say, folks, last time we had this down, I was on the left, Buddy was on the right, because we know he's very right wing, and so let's see if this. Hold on a second. Yeah, people can hear you. For some reason, I'm not able to feed your signal on here in the way I'd like. Yeah, for some reason, Skype is just showing up as a blue screen instead of. Sorry, folks. It's showing up as a blue screen, as you can see, instead of two panes. I don't know why. But, Buddy, we can talk. Yeah, people can hear you, so let's just continue on. And, folks, I want you to remote view, Buddy. Use your imagination. I can see him now. What does he look like right now? What's he wearing? Anyway, I'm kidding. Just use your mic. They can hear you. I wish we could get the pane. I liked it that way, but the double pane screen. You cannot stop Reality's Edge. I like that. Yeah.
has those 3 videos from the back seat of a fighter. I forget the type of fighter. I believe it's from 2019. And there's 3 different craft that the pilot in the back seat caught. And this is from the north side of Virginia there, right off of the coast near Norfolk Air Base there. And there's 3. In fact, I drew. Oh, you can't see it. But the craft are very, very interesting looking. And when you do the math on the map, this is in a military training area. It's less than 250 miles from the White House. Doc, I've got a couple conjectures here. This has been going on for weeks in that area, according to the pilots. George Knapp and Mystery Wire have done the investigations.
Yes.
And it's interesting how the Nimitz stuff and the Tic Tacs and a bunch of other sightings were in the military training area off the coast of Florida. It may be more logical to think these could be ours. Why let some craft 250 miles or less from the White House, our entire seat of power? These craft are incredibly fast. They could get there in seconds, and there's no freak out over it. There's no major military presence off the coast that we've been hearing about.
And where did you get this information from, buddy?
It's on Mystery Wire. It's from George Knapp. They've got great photos and videos and testimonial from the pilots and everything. A lot of people have done analysis on it. I've done a little bit of analysis on the different craft, and all 3 of these different appearing craft, they might just be one craft in different phases, perhaps even. But it's very fascinating, and it brings up the real possibility that these are ours. And the reason why they could be so advanced, seemingly so advanced, is when you really think about it, Doc. The last major piece of hardware to be, revealed, the big secret to be revealed, was the stealth fighter, and that still looks from the future. And that was 50 years ago, Doc. That was created 55 years ago.
It's hard to believe. It's really.
And look how amazing it looks. Half a century ago. So and also in combination with another story we may get to about these new DoD documents that are going to come out. There's a bunch of new technologies in there. And the U.S. may be doing really crazy stuff right now. And it's kind of funny, too, that the government for years was like, no UFOs, so they could work on this technology. And then when they've got it flying around, they're like, oh, yeah, there's UFOs. So you think their technology is the UFOs. It's never a straight answer. But I think we have to more seriously consider the possibility that a large number of these incredible sightings could be ours.
Now, that is a real switcheroo from our position a year ago. I think I was arguing that, and we were going the other way. So let me get this straight, buddy. This is a big one. Based on all of your information, you think a lot of these, or some of them, a big chunk, actually could be some sort of program, and it's convenient for the government to do this, to call them UFOs and everything, to hide them the way they hid the stealth 117.
Yeah, and even the SR-71 still looks from the future, and that's from like 65 years ago.
Yeah.
And that looks so futuristic. It's possible. I'm still on the fence about the Nimitz. I really got all my instincts and all my research and stuff really feels like it's not ours. The big Tic Tacs. But these smaller drones, they've been working on these unmanned vehicles. They've been working on new power systems, ultra capacitors, ways to store a tremendous amount of energy in a very small space. They're working on these different types of reactors, which can be very small. And then these electromagnetic and other types of anti-gravity.
It's interesting. Sunsaver from New Hampshire. I think that's where he's NHH. Yeah. So Sunsaver is saying that these Tic Tac sightings have been around since the 50s.
Yes. And even when you think about it, the ghost rockets.
Those
were very tic-tacky.
Very tic-tacky. Wow.
And of course, saucers are ubiquitous, and those were also seen during the Nimitz incident. But these craft are very different. and also the ones that were seen by the Roosevelt, which were the square ones with the circles on the inside. Very fascinating. I just think as we investigate this realistically and grounded, looking at the science like we always try to do, we need to more seriously consider the possibility that perhaps even a large amount of the really great sightings could be ours.
Wow. Yes, it wouldn't be totally surprising, would it?
No.
It wouldn't totally surprise. I'm in favor of the hybrid view, by the way. Is
A
it?
little bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Some of it just seems a little too strange. I mean, again, going back to Sunsaver's point here, this has been going on since the 50s. Just a brief aside, for some of you, I have been a bit absent from my usual YouTube endeavors, the Reality's Edge show with Buddy, and the things I normally do because I'm working on a new book, and it's like really, really every day I just really sink myself into it, and I've been.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's about how there's a lot of overlap between what we call paranormal phenomena, from cryptids to UFOs to the stuff at Skinwalker to research in ball lightning to cold fusion. There's so many similarities between these phenomena, and what I'm looking at in the book, and I won't tell you anything more about it, it's just why did we see so many commonalities between these different phenomena if they're all really separate? Why do you get some of the same strange, weird things happening over and over again? So as part of that, Buddy, I've been looking back into old UFO cases going back to the 50s.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, going back into the history. Now, that's not that long, really, when you look into the history of science, which is going back. Oh, hey there, Renee. Yeah, sorry, we haven't been around. As I've just been saying, I've been, just working on this. So I've just been going back to the NICAP reports. It's the same thing, but over and over and over. People lose time. They get strange burns. Their dogs start flipping out and hide in the corner before the events happen. They see the same shaped craft going back 70 years. And so I'm in favor of a view. It's partly whatever this other phenomena is, and it's partly our own stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if our own stuff has evolved with 70 years of experience post Roswell.
Yes, and of course, we know that there's been crashes.
Yes,
very unusual stuff back in the 50s where they didn't have this stuff.
Right.
So I think it is a minestrone. It is a combination of this stuff, and something that seems very, very serious to me and is not being taken as seriously as perhaps it should is that certain ex-CIA director of the Science and Technology Unit. He's the neurologist who is working on a bunch of soldiers, aerospace engineers that were bivouacked at repeat locations. And he thinks that these things are earthly. And not only that, I think it was half of these patients died within 2 years from radiation exposure. The other ones suffered horrifically. And you would think an advanced civilization would be more efficient than to have such waste of the radiation from the craft and all that stuff. It's possible that they may not be, but if the government was overtly exposing some of our best and brightest, the pilots, the aerospace engineers, the best soldiers, bivouacking them so they could buzz them with the craft to see how the enemy would react to this super advanced technology. Makes perfect sense. But it's like a 10 times Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah.
It's a big, big case. And they knowingly, some generals, some people in charge of that new technology, and this scientist said that they were exposed to a very specific type of broadband radiation. And that could give us an indication, and that's very wasteful too of the craft, whether it's the propulsion or the anti-gravity or the power systems. It has to be a very innovative new power system. It's not just going to be a regular old nuclear reactor that's like in a submarine. They're going to be used, and here's another aspect that's very scary. These hypersonic missiles are using nuclear engines, nuclear propulsion, and they're going to crash, and some probably already have crashed. But these UAPs are probably filled with some really toxic crap.
Yes.
And if they crash, I don't think there's enough oversight of this stuff, Doc. I really
No.
don't.
No, and if people I've talked to who've worked within these programs have said it's too stovepiped, and the drawback there is you can't ask questions of people who might know the answers because they're not read into your program. So these programs have a way of fizzling out because you can't share it with anybody.
And they can do procedures and things that are incredibly dangerous without any oversight.
Incredibly dangerous without oversight. Very. But we've got a question here.
Right.
Have you had any contact with Sausage as the doggy?
No, I haven't. I haven't
wanted contact or anything like that.
No, it's kind of like with my mom. I think I could have some kind of contact. I've done a lot more research in the past 6 months about ghosts and people dying and their experiences. And there's an incredible consistency with things that happen. There's kind of like this waiting room that just after you die, you're halfway, dead. There's this kind of waiting room area that people who are completely on the other side can meet you at, but they can't come all the way here.
Sure.
Unless there's a Herculean effort and they can only move a tiny little thing like a ghost. But we can go to this waiting room and come back. You can't go to the next room because it's too far. And you hear it again and again, the things that happen in this room. It's very much like your subconscious, where the walls and background and environment changes. There's, of course, the light. There's family members that morph and change and, all this stuff. So I think, contact is real. The same way RV can go into the past and the future. I think it is. And that's a change for me. But I haven't wanted to because it's too hurtful.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, when I had my dogs pass on, I had contact with them a couple of weeks later, and it made me feel a lot better. I thought, wow, they're somewhere, and the sadness lifted. They're not physically there with you, and that's something to get used to. But I did feel like they were somewhere, and they were okay. The same doggy. They were somewhere doing something and having fun, and they could still kind of connect with me, so they didn't feel sad anymore. So I thought, well, why should I feel sad? Anyway, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. It's just my experience. And Renee asked. Renee asked about sausages. I just thought I'd ask you. So.
No, that's a great question. I'm glad that they asked, and I haven't because it's such a painful subject for me. It's like with my mom.
Okay.
So I don't want to because it's such a painful subject, and I probably should and let more of the stuff go. Release that. Like you said, it was very cathartic for you. And I've heard about it time and time again. Linda Moulton Howe talks about how one of her cats appeared in a portal, and she tried to jump into it. Just when she did, it closed.
Right. I think I saw that clip of her talking about that. Yeah, I think people have these experiences. We don't always have the vocabulary to talk about it. It feels very personal. However, it's like these topics, we live in a consensus reality. We're not very good at talking about any of these phenomena that we talk about out in Reality's Edge. People like you and me take a lot of a kind of a personal risk to keep going in these topics because of the way society reacts. Now, you don't care, and I don't care, and I think our listeners don't care about other people's reaction because, as I like to say, science isn't a popularity contest. And
I'm so glad you said the magic word. It's science to us. It's not woo-woo. I think you and I, we admit we don't know all the answers, but there is some sort of field, some sort of something that you can resonate with, that you tap into with remote viewing. You can make that connection with resonance. You can get data, and then that same connection can be other things, from healing to psychokinesis to all sorts of things. But it's science, and they're going to discover the field. Volta, 200 years ago, put together weird phenomena that was puzzling them, and the electromagnetic field. Let's find it, Doc. Damn it, let's find it before we're too old.
And I have to say, sometimes we cover the same ground. In doing this, researching this book I'm working on, I've looked a lot into ball lightning. And this is something that Bob Greenyer has talked about recently in the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, and he's been doing so many live streams and videos about this. And what he's found, and what I found, is it's been rediscovered and forgotten over and over. The research into this goes back 250 years. No joke. but you never, every time someone starts writing about it, it's like from scratch. We don't really know what it is. And it's the same phenomena if you look at how it affects people and animals and their farmyards and things. It's the same freaking thing over and over. And then is it from lightning storms? Is it just from the moisture? And everyone's working in their own fiefdom. And then the mainstream of science doesn't sort of want to cover anything that isn't going to help you. It's not career enhancing.
It's not simple and empirical.
Simple and empirical. Exactly.
It's another one of those difficult fields that's dynamic. There's a lot of synonyms. They have the Hessdalen natural, ball lightning kind of phenomena. There could be other extra dimensional kind of aspects of beings, or there could be multiple different reasons for the orbs that people see, these balls of lightning. And the same thing's true with the UFOs. It's one of those subjects where it's not perfectly, clear, but it's a freaking mystery. And in most subjects, that energy. I remember you talking about EVOs, exotic vacuum objects, when no one was talking about them years and years ago. And you're way. I mean, you're always way ahead of your time, Doc. Those insights, who knows what the future will say about the sciences that are going to be developed out of that.
Now that I did not come up with that just from reading. I mean, that I came across Bob Greenyer from the ECAT World channel, and he seemed to know a lot about the history of this. So I was immediately attracted to his platform because he was so knowledgeable. I just started watching his videos, and I was immediately struck, buddy, by the similarities between that phenomenon of something that has what John Ramirez. We should talk about John Ramirez in a second. The CIA officer that's been doing a lot of interviews. He said at the CIA they called it stealth plasma.
Plasma, wow.
It has an invisible mode that you can only see in the infrared range. Does that sound familiar? Something that
sounds like UFOs, yeah.
Exactly. And then he said that they discovered at CIA. I'm just repeating what he said. And he said they've given him permission to talk about this because none of this is classified. That they realized that these UFOs have a non-solid form that they call orbs. They just said, let's call them orbs. The whole thing is getting reinvented over and over again, buddy.
And it reminds me too that John Hutchinson said that this uncontrolled psychokinesis that comes from your subconscious first is displayed by PK display as balls of energy. And we spoke about this before. People who can fall into the PK displayers category, they have to have all these special conditions that allow these balls of lightning to come from their tension in their subconscious. So you're stressed out, you're on your last bomber mission, World War II, and a B-52 ball turret, and poof, Foo Fighters.
Yes, right. Foo Fighters.
There could be a lot of crossover in this stuff, Doc.
This is a huge area, buddy. Lots of crossovers. I was just writing about that before we started talking. So I was finishing one of the chapters, and I said, what's the continuum between ball lightning and UFOs? A huge crossover. Who's not to say that these Foo Fighters, some of them, are a natural phenomena that are attracted to the people, the metallic surfaces of the plane. It disturbs the Earth's electromagnetic fields. These things can seem like they're playing with you. They can, you know what's been recorded with this? I just will say one thing, and we don't have to go into it because I'm still writing. People recorded 100 years ago, they can play cat and mouse with a person, looks like they're teasing them. Does that sound familiar to you?
Very familiar. And it sounds like the orbs you see in the forest. I've heard about the classic ones that seem more like ball lightning, where there'll be a storm and it'll bounce down the aisle of an airplane.
Yes.
And you know what? There's places like not only the ranch, but there's also like the ESETI Ranch with Gillahan.
Yes.
That has all the same phenomena. The orbs, the weird creatures, the UFOs.
Yeah.
This stuff is all linked. All linked.
It is. And there's also the Marley Woods, so-called Marley Woods. That's just a pseudonym that Ted Phillips gave. Someone actually located it online. I think it's Oregon County, Missouri. And there is a ranch in Elbert County, Colorado, southwest of here, that they say I'm using it as a stand here, this Hunt for the Skinwalker, a book that I felt like I should really go through pretty carefully that I didn't read before. Yeah, they talk about these different sites. Dulce, New Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah, so the same phenomena happen at these the strange creatures, the cryptids, and so
And it follows you home. All those things happen
all
all
of
these
this.
places.
So this isn't new. This is what I just want to point out. Now let's go to some of the comments here and questions, and then we'll get back to what you were talking about, buddy, because there's just so much going on with this. The AOI MSG group in
Yes.
now I call that uh, alien objects in my skies go away. AOI MSG.
Okay, I
Go
like
away, pun intended.
that. Go away.
Okay, now so Renee says, looked up and saw a metallic diamond-shaped extraterrestrial alien UFO starcraft with multicolored lights glinting in the sun.
Hmm.
And then later that night, a shooting star as a 12-year-old in 1978 in San Francisco. So,
You know, there's one thing that follows you home that, we've spoken about this before. It's in that interactive universe model.
yeah,
One thing that follows you home that has all these characteristics, and that's your consciousness. And we can't separate our consciousness from this debate as well, too. This is a very rich soup.
very rich.
I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt the question.
Yeah, and I think this is the important message here, folks. These are not separate phenomena. I know career-oriented people like to specialize in less and less. They like to know more and more about less and less, right? That's what a specialist is. And I guess I'm one of them. I mean, I got a PhD. But let's be honest. That's not how the universe works. It's not made of all these specialized things. It's one integrated whole thing, or it wouldn't work. All the different levels of chemistry and physics and biology, it all has to mesh together perfectly.
Wonderful point.
We wouldn't even be having this show right now if it didn't all work so well. So I know if you look around in the world right now, it looks like there's a lot of chaos and negativity, but at some level it has to be working really well, or Buddy and I wouldn't even be talking right now and you're participating. So something's working, and the system to me seems designed to keep splitting things down and making more TV shows out of it and more ways to get our attention and to tap into our wallets. But it's an integrated whole thing, or it wouldn't work. I mean,
and Doc,
that's just my point.
That quantum theory is 100 years old. We haven't figured out the standard model yet.
Yeah.
We haven't. And so maybe it's something about the human intellect where it's very dynamic topics that have multiple different moving parts. We have a tougher time. Like you said, very, very, very cleanly, we like to simplify down to one thing. It's this, it's that,
Yes. No, it's true. And I just think and you could say, well, Simeon and Buddy, Doc and Buddy, I mean, that sounds like nice philosophy. Where's the evidence? The evidence is that people have been reporting the same phenomena for hundreds of years. Science has changed in hundreds of years. The ball lights, the UFOs, the beings have changed their costumes a little bit. The people have been reporting these same things for hundreds of years. Thousands of years, maybe, if we go back, and we just don't, when the indigenous peoples report it, we call it folklore. How do you know that isn't a verbatim recording in their minds of what happened, that they encountered whatever they say? They really encountered whatever they say they encountered, like people, witnesses in our reality, right?
And you know what? I think there's hints.
Yeah.
Like when you look at UFO history, the early airships, they had propellers and giant bat wings and stuff. And it's like, they don't need giant bat wings. This stuff, it could have this consciousness connection. We don't know, but, it's part of the soup. I love this mystery, Doc. It's
it is
huge.
So Sunsaver's saying he heard the government was trying to reproduce the Joseph Papp engine at Sandia. Now, this is that So the Joseph Papp engine is this oxyhydrogen gas-based engine, HHO. It's like electrolysis. I've been studying it a lot. Bob Greener's been talking about it. You can create it with cavitation. There's the Omaza gas, and it's a way to create mini ball lightning.
Wow.
Instead of electrolysis, like we used to do in chemistry, where you separate the oxygen and the hydrogen, you keep them combined. And this has a sort of an electrostatic potential to cause that type of electron compression to produce mini ball lightning and nuclear transmutation, which can de-radioactivize radioactive materials like tritium, and they're proposing to use it in Fukushima because the HHO gas has been shown to take radioactive substances and make them non-radioactive.
What? The
Yeah,
ones that have super long half-lives?
yeah, it can do it in about a month. It can do it in about a month because it's decomposing. I mean, it's something called that Takeaki Matsumoto called electronuclear collapse, and there's also electronuclear reach. You basically you have such pressures that the atoms are literally changing their constituents. They're losing electrons, regaining electrons. They're changing. It's a very interesting process. Something that we have never been told is real. But I mean, you look at the evidence in these linear reactors and so forth, and what you find is that there are elements there like carbon and nitrogen and oxygen that were not there when you started the experiment. I mean, you can claim it's contamination, but that just doesn't hold water. There's really different elements there. Everyone's been finding this who's ever been experimenting this for 70 years again. So it's another fascinating thing. So the Joseph Papp engine was this HHO-based engine. The famous story about that, buddy, is that Richard Feynman was in the audience at Caltech when Joseph Papp came over. Joseph Papp being a Hungarian who apparently was a very difficult person, we're told, by George Eagly and others, another Hungarian. And Papp came over there, and Feynman said, "What's this wire doing in the wall?" Now, this was a wall to ground all the excess energy that it was generating from the EVOs. And Feynman said, "I'm pulling it out. You're cheating." And Papp said, please don't pull it out. And he pulled it out, and it blew up, and somebody got killed. And some people...
Oh, my gosh, and Feynman did it. Wow.
And there was going to be a manslaughter charge against Richard Feynman for pulling the wire out. And it was plea bargained down because he was part of Caltech to a civil fine. But I mean, there was a fatality from this. So we're talking about something that's really powerful. And the Papp engine is an example of the power of this sort of cold fusion linear technology. And we'll talk about this at another time. But it's just fascinating that, buddy, these things are out there. They exist. But until the power, I mean, it seems to me until the various interests see that, you know, it would really be good to have sort of these non-polluting sources of energy, ways to transmute radioactive elements into something more harmless.
Exactly what we need, yeah.
You know, like this disaster capitalism, like you won't make a profit of billions of dollars of cleaning up radioactive sites if you can do it in a month with a Joseph Papp engine type machine based on cavitation.
And we know thorium would be better in nuclear reactors. I know, and I've seen the hydrino reactors are working, and they're small. And these energy sources are extraordinary. These are whole new energy sources.
Right. These are new energy sources. And what I've learned recently, buddy, is the reason it's challenging to make them sustainable energy sources is they deconstruct the reactor vessels they're in because they're transmuting elements. In other words, these mini ball lightnings that seem to propel and perpetuate the linear process with the help of these relic neutrinos, cold neutrinos. So we'll talk about it another time. Something I've been looking into a lot.
This is great.
They transmute the materials they're around, just like ball lightning can do. It's been recorded. The ball lightning can vaporize metals. So these start vaporizing and transmuting your vessel, and that's what makes it hard to sustain the reaction. Is they're really good at transmuting. You know, if you start out with tungsten or you start out with lead, you're going to end up with a lot of carbon that wasn't there in the initial.
And that's just like the Hutchinson metals that were bent.
It's
and they found the
exactly like the Hutchinson metals. Exactly like the Hutchinson. And John Alexander went there to visit Hutchinson. And
you know, did some stuff with John.
You did some stuff with John, He concluded it was real because they saw examples of the metal samples. And we've seen examples from some property. But anyway, it's fascinating stuff, guys. So let's, so, hey, Omar, how's it going?
Omar, yay. Omar's awesome. I love Omar.
Alchemy is right. Thank you. Guess what, folks? Alchemy is real. It turns out to be really real, and we can prove it from the Hutchinson samples. John Hutchinson proved it a couple decades ago. And now
and it may not be, you know, the scientists may be playing more of a role in the experiments. You know, the age of magic is coming back. You know, all of these new systems seem to have like the exotic vacuum objects. The vacuum is a very mysterious place where all sorts of bizarre particles come out, change, transform into other particles, change, transform back, and poof, disappear. It's like,
yeah,
it's all this stuff seems connected, Doc.
No, it is.
Harmonic.
It's about frequency and vibration and sound,
Yes.
coherent vibration and frequency. We're going to do more shows on this, buddy. I just feel like I'd like to talk more about it when I'm done writing about it, just so I don't. It's funny when you're writing, you want to keep that part separate from your direct interactions, because it's kind of percolating back there like a coffee maker, and you just want to let it do its thing until it's done, and we're almost there. So thanks for your patience, folks. Again, this is why I haven't been quite as active on YouTube, haven't done the reality. I told Buddy, I said, Buddy, I'm writing. I have to get all this down before we have one of these kinds. I'm about 90% of the way there, so thanks for your patience. So Sunsaver says, I think cavitation on water is just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended, or spear. Absolutely. That cavitation, now, this is so funny, guys. I met Mark LeClaire back in Boulder in 2013. He came here for the Global Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference, which I'm sure some of you hear. It's about alternative energy. And he gave us a lecture about cavitation. He showed us the nano bubbles. The cavitation is when you get this kind of bubble expanding from the cavitation, and then it collapses so quickly that it creates a lot of energy. Now, what we've learned from Bob Grenier on the Quantum Heat channel is that Mark LeClaire ended up giving himself cancer because he overdrove the reaction. I hope I'm not saying that incorrectly, but this is just what we've heard from Bob, is that both Mark and his partner got sick from radiation poisoning.
Wow.
Because they overdrove the reaction. You keep feeding the energy back into the cavitation, and eventually you go past the point where you're making carbon, which is sort of a nice midpoint that we're told is where nature likes to keep it, carbon and lighter elements. You start getting to heavier elements. If you go past lead, buddy, you end up with the transuranics.
And the radioactive.
Hello. So,
boom.
And even the Rossi device is capable of doing this if it's not controlled carefully. So there may be a positive reason why it didn't come out when we wanted it to a number of years ago, because normally it just stays around transmuting into carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, everything below carbon. But if you push it too hard, it starts making heavy elements which are unstable, which become radioactive. Alpha.
And that's kind of like the exotic vacuum stuff, where it starts getting out of control and there's things you don't expect. And what's interesting here, I've got two super cavitation things. One is the government I know was working on these torpedoes that had a thing called super cavitation, where there was an explosion at the very front of the torpedo, and it sent this bubble of air down the torpedo and allowed the torpedo to go much, much faster. And recently, I believe it was a French general came out and said they were tracking USOs, the underwater UFOs, going much faster than the speed of sound underwater.
We've been hearing about these ultra-fast USOs.
How are they navigating and not hitting whales? How are they,
That's what I think about. Are they
things that could?
Yeah, how do they? I keep thinking,
especially when they're moving super fast.
Are they destroying sea life down there, going this ultrasonic? I mean,
or birds when they're in the sky doing it. I mean,
I don't know. But something I've always been concerned about is the wildlife on the planet. I mean, at those speeds, because so I read an article in Science last week that around the area of San Francisco, they're thinking of imposing a speed limit on ships year round, from 10 knots down to 6 because of whale collisions and collisions with sea life. Now, during part of the year when the whales are breeding, they've been slowing it down, and that reduces the whale mortality a lot. But during the rest of the year, they speed it up to 12 knots or 15 knots. And that they're proposing to permanently slow all of the ships down off the coast of California in these marine sanctuaries. And I think it totally makes sense. This is what you got to do. There's other creatures living there.
It does, but
they're an important part of the planet, and we shouldn't be injuring them with our ships if it can be avoided. But I've wondered this, buddy. If you have these USOs down there going at these, what are the speeds? Are we told thousands of miles an hour underwater because they have an if some sort of gravitational neutral? I mean, they're not moving through water. It's like a bubble, a space-time bubble. You tell
super cavitation, something.
Yeah, cavitation.
remember, Fravor was saying that the saucer that was just below the water was frothing the water.
There you go. There you go.
So it was doing something with the space-time metric, most likely. And when you look at the research topics granted by ATIP, some of them talk about this stuff, about the space-time metric, and you know who they hired for that.
Yep.
There's a little bit of nepotism because a couple people got a lot of extra contracts that probably should have gone to other scientists that were better.
Hello.
You know? But
we have to refrain from commenting. We weren't there, buddy. But at the same time, I tend to agree with you. Is that one of the reasons why we're not getting UFO disclosure? Is that the gravy train, bud, is so good to the people that have been involved, they don't want to share the gravy?
And you know what's
do you think that's possible?
Yes, transparency helps everybody.
It helps everybody.
Hal Puthoff, I respect Hal Puthoff. I think he's a genius. I think he's done great things for the country we don't even know about. But when you put things in transparency, like this project, he did 4 or 5 of the projects. And I'm certain he wasn't the very best for all of those projects. And, Bigelow, I understand. There was a little bit of nepotism. He brought it up. He presented it to Harry Reid. Some aspects of finagling business, that's all fine and good. But, they're privatizing this stuff now.
Yeah, yeah.
Beyond the reach of FOIA.
It's what the U.S. is good at, is privatizing things. We should open this up. It has to open up. We have to bring the level of national discussion. Buddy, you and I have been saying this for a while, but it's not only us now. It's Chris Mellon, it's Lou Elizondo, it's everyone. They're just saying, I think what they're saying is very sensible. Can we have a national discussion, not of the classified materials that reveal sources and methods of our satellites and our spy, radar systems on the planes? We're not talking about revealing the technical capabilities of our, information gathering assets, quote unquote, but we need to have a national discussion because everyone knows this is real. Your neighbors have had experience in this and they don't talk about it. You're in an area where the Hudson Valley UFO sightings, I grew up there.
Yeah.
People saw these things and they never, I talked to people recently and they had seen these and they never told anybody back in the 80s. And it's, it's not healthy to have people experiencing this. And it's the same way with people experiencing cryptids or whatever their experience is. Let's just have a discussion. I'm not saying any of us knows exactly the answer. I certainly don't, but it doesn't hurt to ask the questions.
And, even Lewis said, this is a humanity issue.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? There's more and more issues. Any system, once it gets to certain sizes, it has to have certain things. Certain things are they will happen at some point, eventually. Mm-hmm. And, humanity's so big, technology is at this specific stage now. And as we've said many times before, we've been denied this information for 50 years. We've been stunted that growth, that inspiration of our kids, all these new technologies that would blow their minds and excite the next scientists.
Exactly.
We've really been stunted. And this is a humanity issue, and it could actually save us in many ways. We might realize all this amazing, the universe is a rainforest, and borders and wars will seem a lot stupider,
It's a science discussion. I'm not sure, unless what you're saying is true. I mean, that it's been so privatized that the people who are getting the gravy don't want to share, the discussion. But that's just, that's just not the way. Anyway. So Rob said brown gas is cold yet cuts. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not much warmer than boiling water, but it can cut things that have a melting point of 3,000 degrees centigrade, and yet it's only at 140 centigrade. How would it? It's not a.
What is that?
Yeah. This brown's gas, oxyhydrogen gas.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Yeah, no. The amazing thing that proves its transmutation and alchemy, like Rob's bringing up, is that it's at a low temperature. The flame is just a bit above boiling water. I mean, if you put your hand right against it, it's hot, like boiling water. It's 140 C, but at a distance, it's not hot, but it can cut through metal, and it's cold.
Wow.
And again, guys, ball lightning is, for the most part, cold. And it does all these weird things. It goes through things and melts things. Okay, it's another discussion.
A lot of the UFOs, when you see them on infrared, they're cold. They're cold. Not all of them, but a lot of them are registered as cold, and especially some parts of them register as very cold.
Yeah,
That's
no,
such
that's
fun
a
stuff. I
big.
love these
No,
topics.
buddy, that's a big clue. I've been looking into this. Is why. So here's the thing. I've spoken to witnesses, people I've just run into in places. What do you do? And you're in some place, and I ran into a witness from Miami who said he was in the summer and he came out of the 7-Eleven. He had just gone from a friend's house and it was freezing. And he looked up in the sky and saw a huge circular object over the neighboring apartment complex. It was sucking the heat out of the atmosphere. Hello. Just, you think it's any coincidence that's what HHO gas is not all that hot, and these EVOs have a cold mode where they suck heat out of the atmosphere? I doubt it's a whole different scientific principle. I doubt it, guys.
Al Puthoff
I
spoke
doubt it.
about that.
Has he
Al
talked about
Puthoff spoke about that, and also that they were red shifting.
Yeah, the blue shifting. The blue.
I don't know what that means, but
yeah, he was. Well, what he told us in 2018 at the SSE meeting in Vegas was that it had to do with changing the permittivity materials. The speed of light can change because it's based on something called permittivity, the electric capacitance of space. Electrical. If that changes in a material, the speed of light would change, and it would shift things. If you change the speed of light in a certain direction, it would make the speed of light change. So even though in your frame of reference things stay the same, everyone else looks red shifted to you, but blue, you look blue shifted to them. And
you're actually traveling at a fast. You're actually in the future a little bit.
Yeah, because you have a different speed of light than them because of the permittivity of your materials from the nanotechnology. Now, he didn't go too much into this, but we knew what he was saying is that these craft that they've recovered, their materials have some way of changing the permittivity and permeability, the two constants in the speed of light. The speed of light's based on permittivity and permeability. So if those constants, like the fine constant, you've heard about that, these fundamental constants, if you change those, the speed of light's different. So, okay, let's look back at some more. Oh, hi, Jan, how you doing? From the north, thank you. Nice to see you again. Brown's gas unsaver. Okay. Yes.
I miss these conversations. It's a thrilling stuff. It's so thrilling. It keeps those, kids. We've been. Oi.
So Sunsaver says, well, I would not explain publicly how we might simulate the hypersonic underwater. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But we need to save the marine life. Yeah, the thing is, none of us want to give away any national secrets here.
Of course.
I think most of our audience is US, UK, or Australia, in this, or Canadian. We don't. I mean, I'm just speaking to those, the Five Eyes. We're not here to help, potential adversaries, as it appears we have some in the world. But we also want to have a national discussion that we don't want to go far behind and have a Sputnik moment, as Hal Puthoff said at the SSC moment. And so my view of this is we have to have a balance between public education and the national security benefits of public education, and obviously revealing what you're talking about, buddy, that some of these UAP may be our craft. Obviously, given what's going on in the world right now on other continents, we want to have some sort of response should the other folks decide they're going to start using chemical, biological weapons. I think we can all see that none of us likes to have a weaponized planet, but as long as you have crazies around, you need something.
But science is different. It's like saying not revealing gravity to us, or not revealing the electromagnetic force, because it has so many things that could help China. We know that Russia just launched some of those hypersonic missiles. We know that the superpowers have these crashed vehicles. Yeah. So it's really the people that are in the dark. And
I don't like
spied up the wazoo.
Exactly, buddy. And I don't like leaving people in the dark. When we have discussions like we have on Reality's Edge, I find it inspiring. It makes you ask questions that I start thinking about for the rest of the evening, and our audience asks questions. I like that type of discussion because it encourages a sense of wonder. And when you have that sense of wonder, you don't feel a sense of desperation. Wonder can get you through very difficult days. We all have difficult days. And something about that sense of wonder can keep you going because you just feel like, wow, there's something amazing that we're going to discover. And the worst, whatever, Ingo Swann used to say, You could have your worst day where your wife left you, your dog bit you, and you lost your job, and my CRV system would still work.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about something that's that resilient, and no matter what happens, it doesn't matter because we're all part of this presence of being here.
And it removes the fear. When it's a total mystery, when it's in total blackness, there's always fear. But when it's at the edge of reality, it's exciting. It's a mystery. It's cool.
So Sunsaver's saying we can.
The child.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's what I used to feel as a kid watching Star Trek and the type of education I was part of. Is there were always these great questions. And I feel like it's evaporated a bit since the 80s. We aren't asking the deeper questions. We do have Star Trek back. We're
going in circles with that stuff now.
Yes, I've been watching Star Trek and thinking, wow, I started watching the show when I was 5 years old. That was 50 years ago. And I'm still watching. It's still half a century later. We still have the themes from, and there's something cool about that because it makes you wonder what else is there instead of just dwelling on kind of narrow materialistic things, which can always make you feel like you don't have enough. But we're here. The fact that we're here is quite amazing at this time to see this sort of thing. So Sunsaver says we can share the basics, but not the details or the trade secrets. Yeah, obviously. We don't want, but I think Buddy has a point, is if we did share some of it, we might realize we have a lot in common. As I made that video on YouTube about 2 weeks ago, that Ukrainian missile incident in 82 at Bielorussia, which is a different town now. I looked it up. It doesn't have that name anymore. It was part of the Soviet Union back then. In fact, this is the part of what's going on with that conflict.
But it wasn't Ukraine.
Yeah, it wasn't Ukraine. Now, I just have thought over and over again, if we had talked about this, we would realize all the superpowers have a lot in common because there's another party out there that's watching what we're doing and saying, hey, we're here. We're tinkering around with your weapons. We're doing it in the Soviet Union. We're doing it in the U.S. Hello. Here we are.
And, these technologies, we're the first species on this planet. We're in a mass extinction. We know the things that killed these previous extinctions. Meteors, solar flares, all these different things. We could do something about it with these new technologies. But if we hoard this stuff, we're hurting ourselves in too many ways.
Right. We should not hoard it because it's how nature works. You can't hoard something that's all throughout the galaxy. What's the point? It's already there. It's all of this stuff, the EVOs, the way these craft propel themselves. What I've been realizing recently, it's how nature works. This isn't high tech. This is the fundamentals of nature that somehow we've been cut off from. It's how it works. You can't patent that, and you can't hoard it.
You can't. And almost 100 years ago, we had such a huge fear, in the 1940s about nuclear weapons. Everyone's going to have nuclear weapons. It's going to be, you know what? Not everyone has nuclear weapons right now. And if we start releasing this stuff now, all these solutions would happen, and the world's not going to blow up. And it actually could preserve humanity. We're all on one little island right now.
Yeah, we're all on one.
When we find out there's other beings, we'll see ourselves in them. They'll see themselves in us. This is 1,000 Galileo moments, Doc. 1,000
Galileo moments. Same discussion as Galileo had with the church back then.
Really is.
Maybe we're not alone. Really? Maybe there's other planets. And Bruno said, well, if there are other planets, maybe there's other people and animals just like us. And they didn't like that. It was enough to get you executed back then.
Let's get our jail cell ready.
Okay.
Doc. We're going.
Okay, folks. Well, we have burned through an hour of time here.
So fast.
Yeah, I am sorry we couldn't get Buddy on the screen. I just want to say the last time Buddy and I did the show, which was a while ago, it was last year, I used the exact same settings, and here he was. I was on the left, he was on the right. I mean, I just thought it was going to work, and all of a sudden it's just, who knows, these settings change. But the next time we do it, I'm going to tweak this again until we get it so you can see Buddy. You can not only hear him through my mic, you're hearing Buddy through my mic, but you can actually hear him. It's not quite fair to you, Buddy, to have you piped in this way, but we'll fix it next time, okay? So,
love you guys.
Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for...
Can't wait for your book, Doc. Hey, Doc, just a quick question before we go. When is your next remote viewing class, the best class there is?
Buddy, For those of you that have taken it, we're going to be doing an advanced class because we just finished an intermediate class with the Phase 4 matrix. And if any of you have gone up through the Phase 4 matrix, some of you have just done the beginning, but if, Buddy, you did the Phase 4 matrix, so
I have not done the advanced.
You would be qualified to do the advanced class. So that's the next one on the table at the moment. So the way I've been doing this, folks, is because of COVID, we didn't meet. Buddy was in the last physical class we ever had here. He actually came here to Boulder. Remember, we had a great time. But I was just down in that basement office that they use as a co-working space where we started. I was thinking about the class. So Buddy was in the last class that we did live. And then I had one hybrid where Buddy was also part of that via Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
And Buddy, you showed me that you could do it via Zoom. You were the first Zoom person ever in my classes because we had some people in that conference room and you showed up via Zoom. We had the camera and we piped it in and it worked. So I've been doing it by Zoom. Wonderful. Now, it's good to do it by Zoom because people from all over can do it, but it's also challenging because we're not in the same room and I can't quite see your paper. If you had two, the people, and it's a little challenging. So, but we will do one Zoom advanced class. So if any of you are interested, you can qualify for either going through the master class online. Just let me know if you want to do it. We'll find a way to make it work. And if you've been through, the beginning intermediate class, you have to have that because you need the Phase 4 matrix to go to Phase 6.
And you were talking about I can't wait that. We'll talk about it later, but like clay and stuff.
It's clay modeling. It's all these tools for really getting down and dirty and specific with your target, which also I think is part of all these other topics. I don't think RV is separate from this other level of reality that we're saying all these other types of phenomena exist. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of overlap here. It's another state of matter, and it does some pretty amazing things. It almost seems like magic.
And once you open this door up, you've said it, you've seen it, I've seen it. Once you do this stuff, it starts opening up doors and doors, and all sorts of stuff happens around your life.
Yes. So once again, thanks, and we're gonna go into the theme song here, and we'll see you on Reality's Edge.
Love you guys.